It's always, would you still love me if I was a worm? Never, would I still love me if I was a worm? Which I think is a much more important and more interesting philosophical question. In this video essay, I'm going to be exploring. No, I'm kidding. Let's make a giant worm costume. I don't really have any inspo pics for this one. It's gonna be a giant earthworm. Basically, I posted this picture on my YouTube community. It was of a rat tail for a costume that I was making. This one. Yes, that's me. And a bunch of people thought it was a worm. And I just thought that sounded like a great idea. So here we are, we're making a worm this time. And yes, I have seen the Heidi Klum, Klum. I've seen the Heidi Klum one. I had forgotten about it until I started looking up examples of worm costumes when I decided to do this. Mine's not gonna look like that. First of all, that was built by, I assume, a team of professionals. Yeah, it took a team of professionals 4 months to make it and 12 hours of makeup on the day. And secondly, her one's kind of scary and gross. And I actually want this to be quite soft and cute and basically like a giant sleeping bag. So what I want to do is break this down into 3 segments is what I'm thinking. We're going to have the top part. I want to attach it with snaps here because I'm really scared about falling over in this and not being able to protect my face. So I want snaps so that I could really quickly get my arms out if I needed to if I fall down. The other section is at the bottom. I want to put a zip so that I can get my feet out and maybe do like a little bit of a waddle in it, you know? Like I need some movement. Oh, the mouse is not a person. I'm a person. Me. Okay, so this is my wadding. Got a bunch of super puff, 100% wool wadding. Very squishy. Inside there's some like thinner wool wadding that's like a denser one. And then we have this puffy wadding on top, which is, I think it's a cotton poly wadding because I wanted to try this one out for something specific. I didn't buy these for this project. I just like to keep this stuff hanging around and I have a feeling we're gonna use all of it. I started out with testing. Again, this is crazy. This is very not me. And by the way, okay, it just said the mouse was first. Look, if I stand close to the camera, it won't recognize the rat as a person. So I did some testing. I am realizing that this is like probably gonna look a little similar to my blanket coat that I made, but let's not think about that. I put a layer of the polyester cotton wadding and then the super puff. I really don't like how this one came out. It's really like just stiff. It doesn't feel very puffy and worm-like. And also if I try to like curve it around my body, it just doesn't look good. This technique would be the easiest one, but I don't like it. So this one, which is what I thought we would end up doing. I learnt from doing my coat, which ended up very stiff. We have a backing layer, then we have our thin wadding, and then we have the puffy wadding. But what I did was I sewed a line of stitching, then ripped up the wadding, put it in between, and then stitched this layer down, and then continued on in that manner. I tried stuffing it afterwards for this one. Too thick and too difficult to do. Couldn't quite get it in, so it really does have to be this method. But I think that this is gonna work really well for our like wormy body shape. For our other materials, I picked up just a massive amount of calico for the base because I actually really like sewing with calico. It's very easy and it holds structure super well and it's cheap. So that's gonna be our base. And I do really prefer to use natural fibers, stuff I already have, thrifted if possible. But for this project, I had a vision and it really all needs to be the same fabric. So what I have ordered is this pink waterproof fabric. It's very rainy and grey and cold and I want to be able to roll around on the grass. I think I got 4 meters of this, so hopefully that will be enough. And the other things I picked up, I really want my face to just like properly stick out of the front of the worm. Like I just want it to be all worm and then just me. I went to Clark Rubber. They just have a bunch of offcuts available, which is awesome. I got this piece for $10 and I figured this is a good size to cut a hole through and put my face in it. I'm gonna need to move the camera for this one. Is it in the shot? This piece was $5. I wanna strap this to my head to make the tip of the worm so that it stands up that tall. Yeah? What do we think? This is gonna be really fun. So I think the first thing I wanna do is figure out how to cut this foam. And then once I figure that out, figure out how I'm going to make this sort of like face hole head contraption. And I have seen people use like turkey carvers. I feel like a serrated edge is good. I have a jewelry saw, so I'm gonna try that. Oh, that's quite good. Look at that. That is not bad. Oh, no, it's cute. I don't know why I didn't actually think about how I was gonna go about this. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's just cut a circle and try and shove my face through it. Oh, God, that was terrifying.
Ow, it's caught on my hair.
Yeah, so I immediately realized that the jewelry saw is not pointy, so I can't cut a hole with it. As you can see, I'm having a great time. I did try the jewelry saw once the hole was bigger, but it didn't really fit, so it was super messy.
It's so awkward. All right, let's just see if my face fits.
I don't think it will. Nope. All right, we need quite a bit more room. I tried cutting it downwards and then across into little segments, and that worked slightly better. It's a little too tight still. I think I might need to make the inside a bit wider than the outside. It's pushing my face out. Okay, we're gonna figure this out. I thought my chair would move, not the desk. I have a confession to make. When I started doing this yesterday, I didn't have a plan. I just was like, I'll cut a hole in the face and then my face will stick through the hole and then that will go into the worm somehow. And then also this part will go on my head somehow. In my lying in bed, I actually figured it out. I'm going to combine these pieces. So we'll cut this into a shape, attach this one to that, probably with contact cement. I hope that works. Let's try hot glue first. Then I'm just gonna like wrap all of that in fabric and then that can just be sewn to the worm and then it should stay on. That's the plan. I figured it out. Ow. No one needs to know this, but I got an absolutely gigantic blood blister on my tongue yesterday and it popped overnight. Also, while I try repeatedly to get this onto my face, yes, I was thinking of the Jenna Marbles toothbrush costume when I was picturing my face coming out of the worm. How am I gonna keep it on my face? All right, we'll try and shape it a little bit more around the face. Although I possibly should have rewatched that video before I started this project because her foam looked a little bit thinner and softer and possibly a little less work to get your face through. All right, that is pretty good, I think. That feels okay. I think what I'm gonna need is like an elastic strap that'll attach this to my head. So that's a good start. And now I want to adapt this piece to fit to here.
That's pretty good. And we might be able to fill in this little gap here with more foam.
Oh, I'm covered in foam. I shouldn't have worn my nice jumper. Just ignore it. Me realizing that my not a person sign didn't work and the camera still thinks the rat is more of a person than me. Also, the hot glue did work. I don't have to open the contact cement yet. Huzzah. What am I even doing?
You can totally tell this is gonna be something, right? It's looking good. Oh, that's gonna be good. Yeah? Can you see? Can you see how this will be a worm?
Just realized I probably should have shaped the end of this before I glued it.
All right, this foam is a little bit denser and it is a bit easier to carve, so that's nice.
Now I know someone is going to say that this was a missed opportunity to make the sandworm from June, but I thought the question, would I still love myself if I was a worm, is more of a challenging idea than if I was Shai Hulud, most feared creature in the universe. Like, of course I'm gonna love myself. Although I mentioned this to a friend and she was like, you clearly haven't read God Emperor of June, which is correct. And with this cover image, maybe I should have made that? Once I was happy with the shape of the foam, it was time to make a fabric cover so we can avoid that intense dandruff look I have going on today. I have very little stretch fabric in my stash, but I had this cotton blend ribbing fabric left over from my blanket coat, so I cut out a basic pattern shape from that. I don't like working with stretch fabric generally when I'm machine sewing, I'm very bad at it, but for something like this where I can just stretch it over a 3D shape and pull it taut where it needs to be, wow, is this better than woven fabric by a country mile. I actually think I'll keep an eye out for stretch fabrics for the stash specifically for when I make art dolls and mascot adjacent projects. And yes, this is some of the elastic that I cut off my underwear in my underwear art video. Now please prepare for a jump scare. Hello. Okay, I think this far back is where I need to be in the shot, which is, I'm now realizing, gonna represent some issues for the reveal. This is as secure as I can get it for now. It's like, it's a bit wobbly. Like, that's good. We want some movement because it is a worm. But the main thing I'm concerned about is that. I don't have much of a solution to that. Maybe I'll just be on the inside of it. I'll be able to like hold it with my arms because my arms will be inside. All right, I'm gonna be honest. I'm like procrastinating at this stage because I don't want to cut out the worm shape. I'm a little scared of ruining the fabric and I don't have enough of any kind of fabric to make a mock-up of this. So To get started patterning the worm, I measured up what I thought would be enough room for my body and arms, as well as my feet, allowing for a little bit of movement. The body section was basically my chest to the floor, the head had to encompass the foam piece we had already made, and then the tail measurement was just what was left of my 12-foot goal for the size of this thing. And then each of the top and tail pieces just needed to be tapered in a natural wormy looking way from the chest and foothold measurements to 0. Is that making sense? It really doesn't feel like it makes sense. Okay, so we have some pattern pieces that I'm feeling very dubious about, but I had a realization I don't need like a mock-up because my base fabric is a calico and that's the only one I have enough of, and we can cut this out in the calico, and if it's not right, just adjust from there. Yeah, do you get what I'm saying? We'll do the mock-up, then the mock-up is the base. It's a lot there. Yeah, I'm feeling not awesome about that. In terms of like this part here, there's gonna be an overlap, but they're the same size. So like one of them has to be bigger than the other, and I didn't account for that. We also do have the problem of the padding. Because of the way I've sewn this, this is going to be over 2 centimeters extra. Each segment has an additional 2 centimeters of top fabric. So the pattern, I can't just like roughly cut it out because there's gonna be a huge difference once we have all the segments. They need to line up on the side seams, otherwise it's gonna look stupid. So I am gonna have to rule lines. I always run up against construction issues while we get into it. The idea always seems so easy. Let's cut out some calico. But before we do that, here's Alf getting breakfast in bed. It is enough. Yay, that was a less interesting transition than I would have hoped. All right, so I'm not sure if VoiceOver Me has explained the pattern pieces yet. I guess if I already have, we can replace this with something else. For editing me, maybe put in like a dancing hot dog or something. Okay, so we have this one here where we will need to cut out a face hole for it. But basically that's the top, then we attach that to the middle. That's the tail end bit, there's 2 of those. And then we switch to, for some reason, a single piece here because I'm weird and didn't want side seams, but then that's the only one that doesn't have side seams. And also this shape is kind of odd. And look, we've got a little bit of scrap pile left, so we might recut that one because I feel like this is gonna be our problem child. Honestly, it's probably all gonna be a problem. Let's sew it together. I'm not gonna show you. Hang on. It's really difficult to move. This is a transition, I promise. There's nowhere I can be that fits all of this into the frame. Also, in case you're wondering about the color of this scene, I don't want any comments about what this looks like, all right? We got enough room. Where is the tail? I'll move, let me just... All right, so can you picture that? All nice and puffy once it's got all of the padding on it. So the top part that goes over will be attached to this piece, and this middle one, I'm gonna put straps on it to help distribute some of the weight. And I might have to figure that out if I do like a stretch fabric or something. Let's sort that out when we get to it, but for now, let's start quilting. Oh, I'll take this apart and then we'll start quilting. So I unpicked the mock-up so we can add all our quilting to the individual pieces, and then I ruled lines for the segments on the calico layer. The segments were about 8 to 10 centimeters tall, depending on how many I could fit on a piece. I imagine that the really proper way to do this would be to also rule lines on the outer layer and then line those up. But as this is a pattern that I'm unlikely to ever make again, I didn't think it was worth the effort to make duplicates of all the pattern pieces, but larger, because honestly, I just have more fun eyeballing things. I transferred the lines I did bother to rule to their corresponding pieces because I'm not a total anarchist, and I do at least want the side seams to match. For the outer layers, I measured out the additional space needed at 2 centimeters per segment and gave them a rough cut beyond that for a little bit of wiggle room. Ha! Accidental worm pun. Nice. Let's turn it into a worm. Ah! Let's start with the end of the tail panel. I forgot to cut out the padding layer. There's a padding layer. I have a miracle to share with you. If you've been here a while, you'll know that I have a somewhat turbulent relationship with my industrial sewing machine in that it regularly shreds the thread. My first attempt at stitching this, the moment it got any speed, the thread broke, so I kind of angrily turned the tension dial to a random looser spot, and it worked. Smooth stitching, even at speed. This is astounding because I swear I've tried every combination of top thread, bobbin thread, and press-a-foot tension, and this time it just worked with a random setting. With the amount of stitching I have to do in this project, it was a huge relief. Whoops. And this is the part where we find out that you can't make mistakes with waterproof fabric. Yeah. Oh well, nothing we can do about it. If you were wondering why it got dark all of a sudden. But it's Melbourne, so it lasted like 20 minutes. Okay, that is our first segment done. It started to really slip at the end there. I guess it's a good thing that I gave myself this extra space. That took all afternoon. So, what do you reckon? We just keep doing that entire process for the next couple of days, probably. That is exactly what I did. So I didn't have enough of either the thick viscose wadding or the thinner wool one, so the plan was to use the thicker one for the front sections because it would have more structure. In the end, that didn't really happen, and I don't think it mattered. And what am I doing with my mouth? I've noticed that I do this when I concentrate. I don't know what it is. At At this point, I tried to reinforce the stitches around the face hole so that when I cut it out, my stitches won't unravel. I was unsuccessful. So I decided that was a problem for later. Then I decided it was time for a tiramisu break. We got these in a 6-pack from Costco and they are far better than they have any right to be. 10 out of 10, we'll definitely buy them again. This is yet another one of those projects that in theory I find hilarious, but in practice as a video, it ends up being a lot of the same thing. Like I have to sew 8 of these panels with segments of stuffing and I never think of it until I'm in the midst of it. But I do hope with this one at least, you'll think it's worth it in the end. I have already edited the reveal and no spoilers, but I think it's a pretty good one. Someone described my reveals as performance art and I can't tell you how happy that made me. So with no segue whatsoever, please do subscribe if you haven't. We are so close to 50,000 subscribers, it's crazy. In my last video, I asked you all to share the video because I think that helps get it seen by more people and oh boy did that work. Thank you so much. So much? God. Honestly, I'd say the chances of you seeing this video but not my hot rat one have to be close to 0. Let me know if that's somehow you. Either way, thanks for hanging out and please enjoy a montage of Alf sleeping. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. That's too damn bad! Can't do a very good American accent. Ugh, we're nearly done, but oh my god, I've had enough. I have had enough of quilting. Ow, I got right on the corner of the table. Oh, alright, let's keep going. The worm pieces had officially hit unwieldy stage, and it was only going to get worse once we started actually constructing it, so I had to move the table from the wall, remove the pegboard, and start rolling up the piece to fit it under the machine arm. Can you tell which one I did first and which one I did second? No, it's not obvious. Yeah, you are not meant to change directions while quilting. And I knew that, but I was being lazy and didn't want to shift all of my stuff. And here we are. So this was supposed to be the front because this is the thicker of the waddings, but no. That's gonna be the front, this can be the back, it's fine. This one just is a lot softer and looks a lot nicer than this one. A lot of little changes in directions, but when it's curved, I don't think it's gonna be as noticeable. Well, this feels really reminiscent of my blanket coat. Oh wow, I'm covered in fluff. You would think that while I was sewing all of this, that I would have thought about how I was gonna construct it. I do not know how to construct this. I thought of some problems though. So as you can see, oh, they're very like wobbly. There's a lot of extra fabric because of all of the quilting. And if I just sew these seams together, I have a feeling that we're just gonna get a whole bunch of dragging. So, we're doing a running stitch all around the edge. Some things just make more sense sped up, like the way I had to move the fabric to get through all the waves. Also, that sound is really fun. I gathered up the edges of the pink fabric, so it's basically like how you would ease stitch the cap of a sleeve in. It is not the best, but it's not the worst. It could have been much worse, so good. It wasn't until I was halfway through sewing the first seam of this that I realized that I hadn't figured out how I was gonna finish these edges. Oh, it's very ugly. So that's the inside of the tail, which is going to need, I don't know if you call it a tail when it's a worm. It's gonna need stuffing. It's just gonna sit flat, I've realized, if I don't put something in it. But I have a ton of wool batting left, and I figure I can also put some foam in there. But next step is we're gonna sew these two sides together to create the actual tail. And also, we went a little bit skew-if here. I'm just gonna keep it. I quite like the additional shape, so we'll leave it. I didn't love the tail to begin with. I'm not trimming down all the bulk off of the edge of this. I've trimmed it down pretty tight here, but I haven't trimmed it down here because I do want some structure to this and that might help. Please, just work. Oh, I love it so much. Look at my baby. It kind of looks like a hat at the moment. Hang on. Like a big old sleeping cap, you know? But like an alien. So good! I'm very, very happy with this. That is excellent news. On to the rest of the body. The body. Onto the rest of the body. It's very hard to say those words. You try. On to the rest of the body. No, actually, that's not that hard. It's just that I have a very lazy mouth. Okay, let's go. I'm speeding up all this footage because it's almost exactly what you've already seen, but also it was a lot of work and selfishly I want that to be acknowledged. I trimmed down the excess before sewing the running stitches and gathering it up. I didn't even film that part. Then I did that little dance. I must have been having a good time. And this is really slow because there's a lot of tugging and lining things up and stuffing the wadding back in and pulling the pink fabric out. And then I pinned every second seam together to try to get the lines as neat as possible. Oh yes. That's pretty good. Onwards. So before I can join the two head pieces together, I need to do the face hole first. And this part is like stressing me out a little bit, to be honest, because I think that this thing fits my face really well, but then this is gonna sit on top of it. I don't really know how to make it work unless I make like a facing for this one and then feed it through this. That would be really odd, I think. I probably should have thought of this before I started filming this bit. Also, we have a slight problem. So I cut out the hole here for where the face was supposed to be. But then this kind of like, once this is joined, it really needs to sit a little bit further down than the hole. I hate this technical stuff. Why wouldn't it just work? I retraced the face hole and I'm literally now just wondering why I thought to cut out the face at the start anyway. That's so unnecessary. I have to do it now. Anyway, I made the jankiest facing ever, but would you believe it's gonna do the job? All right, I'm gonna stitch all the way around here. Let's hope it works. Okay, so we have a facing. Don't worry about what it looks like. It's not bad from this side. It's fine. Here's the thing. Excuse me, if you could just... Oh, I had it so neat and now I've ruined it. All right, so here is the thing. We can either sew this down and add Velcro to this, and then it can just like smoosh on, but I don't think that's gonna look so good. We can also pull this through here and then shove my face in, and then that will help adhere it to my face because it's a tight fit. Whether we can do that, it's gonna depend on how difficult that is to figure out once this is all sewn together. So look, I think this is just a future me issue and I'll figure it out one way or another, but let's finish up the outside of this worm and we can start joining all the pieces together. All right, this one to this one. Let's do another transition, yeah? Yeah. We have a problem. It doesn't fit onto this thing. It's too tight at that end. I have made every adjustment that I can to this piece. I've removed as much fabric as is possible and it doesn't fit, which means I have to trim down the foam piece. Yeah, it's not getting all the way to the top. So where is the resistance point? We're still missing the hole by quite a bit. All right, keep at it.
I could have just fixed the camera angle, but instead I'm crouching. We did it! Success! Ah.
Oh, it just keeps getting messier and messier in here. Let's talk about what's required to finish this piece. I need to do the band around the shoulders. Here are my fabric options. This is, I think it's wool or maybe not wool, but whatever. This is wide enough to make a nice band around here, and it provides some contrast, but it won't stretch, and I really think I wanted this to stretch because these two kind of join up just right. I thought this would need to have snaps here, but when I put this on, it kind of just stays up on its own. I've got some elastic that was previously cut off underwear. I'll attach those as straps and that will keep it up. And then if I have a band that goes over here, that will cover up that join. You see what I'm saying? And then I don't need to have snaps at all. Then at the bottom here, we need to, well, I'm getting distracted. Wait, we'll come back. So the problem with this is it's not stretchy and I don't know if it's too much of a contrast. Like I want some contrast there, but that might be too much. I was gonna use this one, but I realized that these little pillowcases have embroidery on them and there's just not really enough fabric there. This color, this one here is a linen throw, and I think it's just a little too like blush colored. I think the pink works better than that one does. I don't know, maybe, oh, on camera that one actually looks pretty good. Hang on. You know what? It's the pink in the face that's throwing me off. What if we ignore that? The other option is go and get some cotton spandex from Spotlight. Hi, Alfred. Okay, bye, Alfred. Spotlight's about to close, so what I'm thinking is maybe I give myself the night to think about that, and for now, we work on the rest of this. So we can put an edging on here and add our elastic. This part here needs to be joined, and so I need to put a zipper in. Somewhere in this pile is a zipper. Aha, there it is. Okay, so this, I know I said I learned my lesson in my last one about putting invisible zippers in, but I actually would really like this join to be invisible. But this is gonna get caught in it. And the other thing we need to figure out is the filling for the tail. So that's a whole other thing. All right, I don't know what I'm doing next, but I'm gonna stop filming. As it turns out, I started with that edging for the body piece and I very bravely sewed the binding on entirely by machine because I really didn't have time to hand sew it. Then I made covers for the straps. I specifically wanted them to be elastic so that if I stand on the body while walking, I only stretch the straps rather than ripping them off entirely. I checked their positioning to make sure I could still get my arms in and out. Success. We have our little shoulder straps. It makes it look like a really, really big handbag. How good does this linen color match? It's quite good. So we need to tackle the bottom of this one now. So I went to Spotlight this morning. I feel like I'm yelling. Am I yelling? And I picked up this minky stretch fabric. It's kind of wormy, if you can see the lines on it. So I realized that I really need it to be a stretch fabric because it is hard enough as it is to get into that worm with the face and everything without additional non-stretch fabric that's gonna cover more of my arms. So I really want it to be stretchy so I can kind of like fold it up and then like pull it down. Gotta make sure that it has enough room to like sit once it's puffy. I don't really get how much it's gonna shrink, but I feel like that's a pretty good, this is probably fine. All right, so here is the plan. We join this here to make a tube and then we fold it in half, so that's the correct width. And then we put some stuffing in here, so a zigzag stitch to make our tube, and then repeat that up. And then we attach the top part here to the bottom of the face one. Yes, it is the best plan I have. So let's go. Okay, this was the moment I remembered that I own an overlocker. Good timing. And I don't think film can possibly convey it, but this is really hard. I hate it. This is without a doubt the most difficult fabric I have ever handled. It is super slippery and heavy and just like floppy, and I hate it. I hate this fabric. This was a terrible choice. I miscalculated how much it would shrink.
This is probably fine.
I removed the excess and actually had a brainwave. I didn't have to unpick all of that stitching. I only needed to unpick enough to re-sew that seam. So it's actually one of my easier mistakes to fix. And look at what a good time I'm having. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm pinning them, but only this single layer, and I'm gonna try and stitch right on that line, trim this part down, and then fold this one over it so that I can encase that edge so that it's nice and smooth. And I figured out that for these parts here, these like rough edges here, I'm gonna trim them down, and then I'm just gonna put a piece of calico down that side and then just like hand stitch it in to cover up all of those seams. I think this is a pretty dang cool costume, and I'd really like it to last. So I think if I make sure everything is like nice and neat and finished on the inside, someone else who is the exact same height as me could borrow it. Don't ask me where I'm gonna store this one. I don't know. Look at it. As horrible as this was to sew, that is exactly what I was hoping for. So this is really nice and stretchy. Oh, I've got a dry throat. Could it possibly be from all the fluff that is constantly floating through this room? No. I will finish those ends. I haven't closed it up yet, but I will do that in the evenings because like, you get it. I'd rather save my good light for brain important stuff. Speaking of, it's time to do the zipper. I want to cover it up because look at how bright this is. I picked this up at the shops this morning. It was the only chunky one they had that was even remotely close. I don't have a lot of scraps left. This is what we have left of this pink fabric. And here is the plan. There's enough fabric here, I think, to attach the zipper. We add a little extension to this one. This is the tail one. And then the zipper sits in between those two. And then on top of this, I sew one more of these padded things. So there's an extra panel in between the two. This is probably a case of me overcomplicating things, but I just really dislike the idea of there being a visible zipper or like an uneven weird segment that just like draws your eye. So look, you probably won't even be able to see it on camera, but let's do a ton of work to put a zipper in. I'm gonna say it. I don't like doing fastenings, especially zippers. You have to be so precise, and that is not where my skills lie. Also, yes, this is one of my more harebrained and overcomplicated processes to date. You will see why. I appear to have sewn myself into a corner of sorts. Now what? I mean, I'm just gonna sew in this direction as far as I can, and then unzip it and sew in the other direction as far as I can and hope they meet up. Now, if we can all just accept that this is gonna be really messy, it's gonna be a lot easier for everyone involved. All right, I think that's the limit on this side. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Don't worry about it. It's really ugly, but it does the job. Okay, now I just need to figure out how I'm making another puff layer to go on top of this. Oh my gosh, I could have joined it with a puff layer at the back. This doesn't need to be doubled up. That could have been a puff to here, and then this panel would have been a zipper that goes in separately. Oh, that would have been much easier. Oh, it's so ugly. Oh Oh my god, it actually worked. Now the zipper is under there. All I have to do is put stuffing in this, fold it under, and hand stitch that down, and we will hopefully have a fairly seamless zipper cover. I always think about the fact that I'm figuring these things out because I'm making these projects for the first time, and if I made it again, I'd be much faster at it. But I don't ever make them again. All right, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So that's the back. Can you tell which one it is? It's this one. Yay, we did it. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of work to put a zipper in, but I will be better next time I make a worm costume. And now you know for when you make your 12-foot worm costume, do not put the zipper in that way. So next is we need to stuff the tail. So as you can see, hello. It's a little bit flat. So what I'm gonna do is I have been collecting all of my scraps. I've got my like test samples in here as well. And then there's also some of the grosser bits of my wool batting. I'm gonna just shove it into the tail. And then I'm going to just literally sew a circle of fabric inside it to like close it like a lid. I also have my bag of foam I forgot about. So I've got all these little foam offcuts that I was like, surely they'll have a use. They're going in here because that's gonna be lightweight and help puff it up. That's looking a bit better, look at that. First I did that calico seam binding thing just at the top of the tail because these seams were far too chunky for the overlocker. I also think it looks nice. Then I made myself a circle pattern for the lid. I don't remember where I saw this trick, but sewing a centimeter in from the edge to make a guide for ironing is a helpful way to do a round hem. Then I put it in and realized I'd measured wrong and it was too small, so I had to do all of that over again, but I was not gonna refilm it. Oh, look at that. This is our tail, and that is our little lid that will keep all of the stuffing and foam in there so that my feet can go in here. I'm really happy with that. Good, good, good. I didn't mention it at any point, but from the start I had planned to cover my de-ratted slippers in pink fabric scraps so that my feet wouldn't be obvious when walking in the worm. And then because if I don't do it before I finish this video, I know I never will, I finished the raw seams. And these might be gratuitous shots of them, but I worked really hard at this, so I'm showing you. Consider it part of the reveal. Closed seams everywhere. Also, oh, this is the softest and squishiest. I know this fabric was a nightmare to sew, but this is really lovely. It's very nice. By this stage, I had already signed off like 2 days ago, but I kept finding things to finish, and this was an awkward but necessary one. I attached the facing to the foam face piece. It was really tricky to sew, but I do think this was the only way to do it, and so much easier to get this thing on now that it was all one piece. So I finished up the last of the seams on the body, and it was finally time to answer that question. All right, we're doing some final thoughts on this one. This is absolutely a functional sleeping bag. Really cozy, so it comes up to here, and then I have like my arms free. You can walk around in it and then zip your feet up when you're ready to go to bed. And this like foam thing around my face functions as an inbuilt pillow. So I can lie on my side and I'm like perfectly propped up. And if I lie on my back, I think I just hit the light. Honestly, after we filmed the hammock scene, I actually just laid there for like 15 to 20 minutes and just chilled out because like I couldn't hear very much because this is quite insulated. And bonus, for people like me, the foam around my face here stops my mouth from opening while I'm asleep, and so I won't drool. To answer the question, would I still love myself if I was a worm? Absolutely. I am adorable and cozy. 10 out of 10. It would take a little bit of adjustment for sure. I'd need some accommodations. It's pretty hard to get around. So yeah, I'm very happy with this project. Thank you for hanging out, and I will see you next time for God knows what. Bye! Oh.
That's a good apple.
Lovely. I said no laughing.